Civilizing America, a user's guide for From the Ground Up. Chapter 15, Solve Problems. We devise strategies to meet group problems. At the end of this chapter, which is the last of the book, we will also include the appendices, which are two valuable communication skills check sheets. Conditions that could undermine a movement are always on the edge of awareness, or they would have been remedied already. Because of the inherent obscurity of curative influences, we need to ferret them out deliberately, with better communication, greater consideration of off-the-wall comments, more time for reflection and problem solving, more steady outreach, and less presumption that present directions are perfect. Historic cycles of progress and decline hint to us that we may achieve different results than we envision. If we give up before achieving our goal, the obvious reason is we quit. But applying the Anna Karenina principle, noted in Chapter 12, we may have failed to avert specific threats. The most pervasive is our limited understanding, causing us to misread what is before us. Four characteristics help explain. The first is that individual knowledge is scanty. Of the 39 million books in the Library of Congress, how many can each of us know? Our individual brain contains only a dot, a grain of sand on a vast beach. We can appreciate this by noting the extent of our thoughts in a week. Our mind narrowed around a bare handful of persistent concerns. Our standard emotions magnetize our thinking like the sun holding planets in orbit, allowing little room for novel ideas. By letting only a few ideas affect us, what enters our awareness appears disproportionately significant because it seems to fill our entire mind. Our self-imposed capsule of attention then fails to account for the remainder of the universe we choose not to think about. We judge events habitually by how they affect us instead of how they impact the world, so that our most serious limitation is just our ignorance. A second problem is that to change even this restricted content, our attention is extremely narrow. We think productively only about a single topic at a time. One day, for example, as I entered a parking lot serving many businesses, I noticed on its far edge an open spot with a tree growing next to it, and a thick branch partly overhanging it. I thought for a moment, someone could hit their head on that branch, and then turned my attention elsewhere as I crossed the area. Perhaps 15 seconds later, I pulled into that very spot next to the tree, opened the door, got out, and hit my head on the branch. We often use our attention like a flashlight beam pointed at the one issue that concerns us, while erasing everything else in the world from our mind. Though sometimes we stretch our attention to multitask any issue we wish to consider deeply, we narrow our attention upon it, usually sustaining it with a familiar feeling. And though many other factors may be significant to us, for that time we dismiss them from our mind. We view thinly our present concern, factors impelling voting behavior, and even our rationality can be narrow. Consistency among our own ideas can still leave us immersed in a false picture, pursuing a basic error through multiple iterations. With the third condition of our mind, we are vulnerable to misusing even the little we know. We have no innate check against believing something false. It would help if we could pry apart two sectors of mind and always knew which was which. One, for all uses of imagination and invention, and another for reality, the way things are. Instead, our brain randomly converts one to the other. Walking at night and hearing a noise behind us, with our imagination, we fear being mugged. And if the noise is a dog inspecting a dumpster, we imagine it homeless instead of having escaped its leash. Once believing all border crossers are dangerous criminals, nothing about the brain itself corrects the idea. We swing constantly between reality and fantasy just by using our exceptional ability to exaggerate and minimize perceptions. We can balloon a few details so they saturate our attention, shrink others, and dismiss others, stitch together impressions we have reconfigured and decoupled from objective reality, while retaining much incorrect. Lying, for instance, can interfere with the brain's own processing, so that people, especially the elderly, can come to believe their own lie. We may even assume that with an idea about something, we claim the thing itself, that our idea is the reality, though it may instead close our mind and leave us with false confidence. Centuries of theological and philosophical dispute suffered from this problem, and religions today are vulnerable to it, making it urgent that we nail down evidence and monitor our departures from reality. A fourth problem maintains the damage from the others. Our brain presumes that its ideas are reality. Not that they are perfect, but rather, if I experience it, it is real. What I feel is real. Trusting the current scope of our understanding confirms all the errors we have collected. An evidence of the destructive power of this tendency is the extraordinary fact that for hundreds of years, right up to the present, people have believed they knew who should die just for believing differently. Inquisitions in different countries, the torture and murder of supposed witches, and the wars of religion continued because people were certain that religious disagreement freed them to kill others. Like horses wearing blinders and oblivious to what might be beyond them, people asserted an error real enough to justify murder. Any focus we are certain is true tends to persist, so that we may make foolish choices in one area while perhaps having good judgment in others. Presuming our preconceptions to be valid, We may then apply them to external conditions with what we might call shadow experience. Feeling anxious, we presume outer threat is real. Being angry, we assert the other deserves it. Uncertain of a new acquaintance, we define them as trustworthy. Instructed to hate someone, they become hateful in our mind. We project our concerns toward others and construct a distorted impression about the relative importance of everything, an assertion of reality that can persist even when we are destructively mistaken. Voltaire nailed the consequence. Quote, "If you can make people believe absurdities, you can make them commit atrocities." A grim prophecy of the 20th century, 200 years before. Mental illness occurs then when our inner reality overwhelms the outer. On the other hand, thinking, "My inner experience feels unreal to me," we might need mental health treatment, though most of us align our error-ridden concepts with outer reality enough to function. To correct false impressions, we consult objective conditions. These four limitations beg us to monitor the quality of our thinking and accept that everyone can correct everyone else. We welcome challenge to our ideas, talk through differences, and release attachment to ego and turf. We do not know who will misread a situation, nor where the best idea will come from. When we can, we test our ideas before applying them broadly. We are affected not just by current thinking, furthermore, but by the remnants of decades of limited and false assumptions. Our mind is like a crowd watching a bonfire on a dark night, with the few people close to the light easy to recognize. Our mind similarly has ready access to our current concerns, but waiting to be invited forward from the shadows are remnants of our past mistaken ideas that can distort everything. We need to rein in our surface impressions and know that greater understanding awaits us, seize each day's learning, and carry forward its wisdom, or else our mind will reduce it to a passing thought. Once grasping our own narrowness, we can be more patient with the limited scope of others' minds. Injuries to the process. These limitations converge into an unhappy realization. No matter how obvious a reality, we can ignore it, even while experiencing it. And all of us can do this. Our mind seems filled already with everything that matters, ballooning up self-referent details wherever we look. Even our dreams, guesses, and fantasies may dominate our awareness and shrink concrete facts down to the dot of an I, dismissing a huge spectrum of meaning. You may not read one word further here because your mind is already saturated with your own life. This self-absorption may not even be from evil intent, but rather due to a facet of our ignorance. We can overdo asserting our personal power, for instance, just because it appears growth-enhancing to us. or we may allow ourselves a little personal freedom. I can do this, and fail to notice its effect on others. Sensing no obligation to our pen or notebook as having rights, even the correct use of a fact may not occur to us, and we distort it slightly to make a point. A thoughtful person navigates these pitfalls easily, tells the truth, never uses a part to distort a whole, and never conceals an ill intent. Undistorted truth is society's pacemaker. Bending it causes intellectual illness in ourselves and others. We do not want to clothe issues in rationality, whose substance is emotional, subjective, and self-interested. To solve problems quickly, we first settle on a process, values, common ground, and a willingness to learn from each other. Sometimes returning to raw sensory data can lighten an impasse. Do you see what I see? We need to recognize conflicts of values occurring in their simplest form before us, noticing intangibles violated before our eyes. Mistakes. Mistakes almost constitute the fabric of human experience, that people have limitations and do things wrong, yet they are a natural outcome of dispatching energy into an unknown. When we have not done something before, our first try is not perfect. We can trouble ourselves over this by expecting criticism for our mistakes, creating more by fearing them, avoiding challenges, and taking objective limitations personally. They occur whenever we act amid circumstances we cannot fully control, and we progress by repeatedly correcting them, like driving. Several kinds of mistakes especially affect social action. Some are due to a person's level of development. We notice their progress and say confidently, "Don't worry, they're trying." Especially if they are aware of it and want to learn, we pass over the mistake, check that the individual does change in time, and might include the topic in a group training. Personal traits may be the issue. Facets of personality not aligned with the job, like inattention, impulsiveness, and over or under reliance on details, brief focus when long-term is needed, and so on. In response, we can match people's traits to a task or help them develop past the limiting quality. Leaders should address member tendencies that affect outcomes. So, Jan, what happened between you and Aaron? Planning and coordination are another kind of mistake. Planners did not foresee, support, supervise, or communicate sufficiently. People were given challenges beyond their ability. Planning did not account for details. Assumptions about resources were mistaken, or people just dropped the ball. For such mistakes, we examine the pipeline, how the plan was thought through and carried out, perhaps failing to keep agreements or defending turf instead of problem solving. Intangibles can cause big mistakes, assumptions, conflicts, anxieties, resentments, recognition, and so on. To address them, organizers listen carefully to people and observe where the intangibles register. Is their experience with the group positive? Do they adopt goals with a long time horizon? Bond with each other so that strangers become friends and co-workers? Sensitive understanding and listening can recognize and lighten distresses. Many organizations finally decline due to a leader's personality, how they approach life. Their pattern may be so clear that others can predict it, and it can paralyze activity. They may be lazy, narrow, dominative, reactive, or untruthful, and their influence alone may destroy the group. Others may recognize their mistakes but not want to confront them, may discount their own ability to intervene, and let their discomfort impede any intervention. They fear the other's reaction and hope they will correct it themselves. This problem has three outcomes. The organization dissolves through bankruptcy or loss of support. Numbers of members confront the leader and turn them around, or members choose new leaders. Evaluation and conflict resolution. A group answers the question, how important is our effort, partly by how it welcomes feedback. Believing their undertakings are significant, members are glad to exert the extra effort that might provide an increment of improvement. At first glance, the benefit of feedback may not appear important. People want to avoid looking bad or embarrassing anyone else. They work so hard, organizers might think, and just need rest. They don't want another meeting. Everyone knows they did well. On the other hand, after an undertaking, people may remove their attention from their purpose. To sustain it, post-activity evaluation meetings are a handy marker for assessing effort, affirming degrees of excellence, and projecting ahead. One team reports at a time. Early on, people most need inclusion and appreciation, while later, when bonds are deeper, they can be more frank. Team members express appreciation for each other's effort and comment on their strengths and weaknesses. They may cover everything others notice, but it feels safer coming from themselves. Then we ask the group, anything not pointed out yet? Suggestions for next time. Members offer ideas diplomatically. Would it work better to not blaming, but staying positive? Next time we might, and then another team reports. About mistakes by individuals, analyzing accurately what went wrong is essential. How different thinking could have averted the problem, and will do so next time. We first compliment and appreciate some aspect of their effort, and then invite their experience about the mistake, how they prepared, what led to it, what happened, what they thought at the time, and so on. We address gently the internal shift that could avert future mistakes and obtain their agreement. Looking back, do you think you were annoyed at others' suggestions? Or is it hard for you to let others help you? Or sometimes do you let things slide till it's too late to do it right? For continued complaints, a standard backup is When in doubt, learn more. Let someone close to the individual listen thoroughly just to understand, paying close attention till the person has no more to say. When everything has been aired, common sense often suggests a direction. A second option is a group meeting with the individual. Someone describes the problem, the person's behavior, and its impact. Others confirm it. The person offers their views and information bearing on the issue, and all agree on how to define the problem. They brainstorm and weigh alternate solutions, select one mutually agreeable, and outline backup steps in case the solution does not work. In problem solving, the group balances two values: caring about individuals' ideas and feelings on one hand, and the group's purpose on the other. We avoid pressure tactics, abrasive speeches, and accusations, and sometimes integrate thinking with periods of silence. Conflict and group purpose. Our main criterion for resolving conflict is: how does the issue relate to our purpose? If it interferes, it is the group's business. Differences matter when they affect outcomes. Otherwise, parties can have their opinions, flip a coin, and either can say gracefully, "Okay, let's do it your way." Trust helps people work through issues. In face-to-face situations, 6 polarities especially affect it. 1. Do we think as equal or superior? Trust suffers when one assumes a superior status, thinks their opinion more important than another's. Equality enhances trust, which politically means shared power. 2. Are we provisional or certain? We hold lightly to an idea until it is proven. Let others challenge our ideas and use their evidence to modify our opinions. The more certain we are, the less others can trust us to appreciate their view or take account of their evidence. 3. Are we spontaneous or strategic? Around spontaneous people, we know where we stand, what is on their mind. With someone strategizing, we do not have the whole story. Their secret probably injures us, or they would tell us about it. 4. Do we seek problem solving or control? When someone says to us, "Let's see if we can work this out," we can contribute our ideas, equalizing the power between us. One exerting control, however, wants to impose a solution and has no interest in our view. 5. Are we empathic or neutral? Empathy enables us to appreciate others' feelings and viewpoints. With hostility, we at least declare an opponent significant, but when neutral, we dismiss them as unimportant. 6. Do we describe evidence and seek information, or evaluate and blame? With the latter, we claim the right to judge others, setting them at a disadvantage. Trust increases as we rely on evidence to sort out differences. To enhance trust, We take full account of the other by equalizing, deferring certainty, having open intention, sharing control, allowing for constructive emotion, and gathering information. We do not use our power to impose our ideas. The Golden Rule enshrines an essential attitude. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Note the second part. As you would have them do unto you. What is it, anyway, that we want them to do unto us? Let's see now. We want our lives to do well. We put ourselves first in our thoughts, and evidently want to be first, which means we want others to put us first. That's how we want them to do unto us. Put us first. The rule then directs us to our desire. You got it so far, the rule says. You habitually put yourself first. Now then, do that to them instead. Put them first. Our head spins 180 degrees, and we are told to make this new viewpoint a habit. Put them first? Because self-interest grips us in so many ways, we cannot resolve this shift all at once. But if it is not hard for us to do, we may not be reaching deeply. Do we really weigh others' needs as equal to our own? Are we willing to acknowledge our mistakes and misjudgments? Do we use each other's information without distortion? As others believe we sustain their interests, they do not have to fear us. For the word trust, we can substitute rely on. Can I rely on you too? And fill in the blank. Intangibles affect responsibility. A community's fate rests on those who understand its values, and might be anyone, not just its leaders. If one person does not handle a challenge successfully, a second advances to the breach. If the second is not successful, a third takes it up, and so on. Maybe the one considered least capable thinks effectively for the group's well-being. Similarly, every citizen bears responsibility for the fate of their nation, and every human being the fate of the world. The motive is caring about others, but the strength of our motive affects everything we do. During summers after I graduated from high school, I worked on a survey crew supporting road construction. On one project in southeast Alaska, we plotted new line through virgin forest and worked around men who were cutting down large trees and cleaning up a huge volume of slash comprised of tree trunks, stumps, bushes, moss, and roots. It all had to be removed before clean dirt could be laid as foundation for the road, and the means used at the time was to burn it. When the weather was cool and damp, in the middle of the cleared area, workmen placed an oil barrel with the top third cut off. They filled it nearly full of oil, poured several inches of gasoline on top, soaked a 30-foot rope in gasoline, placed one end of the rope in the barrel, and laid the rest on the ground stretched out to one side. Then, with short logs 3 to 6 inches in diameter, they built a pyramid, layer by layer, rising several feet above the barrel. A bulldozer then worked with a drag line, a caterpillar with a long arm and huge bucket hanging from cables. The bulldozer pushed the slash where the drag line could pick it up and pile it upon the pyramid. When the mound was about 20 feet high, workers lit one end of the rope. Fire traveled along it into the barrel of gas and oil, which then began to dry and burn the log pyramid above it. Soon, from the center of this massive pile, a column of fire rose so intense that with its clamshell bucket, the dragline could lift a huge, wet, green stump, turn, stretch its arm, and drop it high up into the center of the fire, where it would disappear seemingly in minutes. A working group needs an energy like that fire. Small fires here and there are not enough. Casual interest is not enough. Advertising is not enough. Raising money is not enough. Goodwill and thoughtful voting are not enough. Rallies and marches are not enough. There needs to be a core intensity of conviction and purpose, strong and steady enough to dissolve resistive conditions, which means that people in sufficient numbers must possess those qualities. The conditions are not abstract, floating above us like weather balloons. They lie within the hearts of people who are passionate about what they believe is right and true. Civilizations decline from conditions changing faster than they are willing or able to adapt to. As rapidly as new circumstances evolve, familiar ideas become obsolete. We must constantly sort the useful from the useless, adopt a frame of mind in which a better solution can form itself, and steadily employ what we know enhances human experience. Remove negative elements from our heart and mind. Release ego. Love others. Pay attention. Reflect. Notice the outcome of your deeds. Choose the best. We go now to Appendix 1. Perfect conversation. Techniques are followed by the need they meet. 1. Look at the speaker. Attention. 2. Leave a brief silence after each one speaks. Respect. 3. Include everyone. Inclusion. 4. Ask questions. Interest. 5. Connect with others' ideas. Idea development. Appendix 2 is communications for meetings, especially important when anything important is, especially valuable when anything important is the subject of a decision. Number 1, check your inner activity. Notice others' desire to speak. Feel respect and consideration. Wait your turn and focus on the one speaking. 2, allow a brief silence. After each comment, let everyone think about it and decide if they want to speak next. 3, use short messages instead of long. Weave together many people's short messages like a tapestry. 4, summarize the previous comment and the speaker's feeling about it before offering your own. Referring to others' names, thoughts, and words aids continuity. 5, check your guesses about others' thoughts and feelings. If you do not understand what a speaker says, ask someone else to clarify and let the speaker verify or correct it. 6, appreciate and thank people. Give compliments and tell what helped you. Feelings have priority over thoughts. 7, complete a theme. Get group consent to switch topics. Review the progress of the discussion from time to time. Point out similarities and differences and do not minimize the latter. 8, include everyone. Get everyone's viewpoint and feelings and treat them respectfully, even if you disagree. Everyone has a right to their opinion. Draw in the hesitant. 9, welcome correction. Accept challenges and corrections gracefully. Each needs to be able to say what they really think, but also be open to feedback about it. 10, share leadership. People develop confidence as they contribute to and initiate group thought. And finally, about the author. John Jensen is a licensed clinical psychologist, education consultant, and former Catholic priest. He is the author of We Need a Movement, 4 Problems to Solve to Restore Rational Government, published by Create Space and Kindle Direct Publishing, 2017, and a 3-volume Practice Makes Permanent series for turning around classrooms, published by Rowman and Littlefield, Lanham, Maryland, 2012-2013. He can be reached at jjensen@gci.net.